But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal.
Hello, and welcome back to Chakras and Cusswords Podcast. My name is Katherine, and I am your host. We are literally full mist in the center of some chaotic fucking energy. Like, this energy is a lot. And we've had a lot occur in just like 3 days. A lot occur globally, in the US, energy around movement that feels very abrupt, hostile, aggressive, and even very worrisome. I could definitely see and feel that there's definitely some energy of worry for the collective, some energy of grief, some energy of sadness, of hope kind of dwindling away. And then there's also some energy of anger. There's some energy of that might feel a little bit centered around justice. There's definitely a lot of emotions going on. And this is, guys, we're right in the middle of eclipse season. We are right dead center in between two eclipses. We just had the blood moon eclipse that occurred, and now we're getting ready to have another eclipse. So I'm recording this podcast on Friday. Like, what day is it? September 12th. And I will tell you, it's early morning. I'm home from work, fortunately for me. So we're going to talk about all the situations that are going on. And I will tell you that some people might not appreciate my point of view. Some people might not appreciate some of the speakings that I'm about to say. Okay, so we're going to talk about Charlie Kirk and what has happened. So on September 10th of 2025, literally right around the energy of the movement from the eclipse that occurred over the weekend, we have conservative activist and co-founder of Turning Point USA was speaking at a public event in Utah Valley at the University of Orem in Utah. The event was part of the American Comeback Tour, and the format involved his signature Prove Me Wrong table. So this table is kind of like where he does these debates with other people, and they talk a lot about a lot of issues. He is definitely a conservative. He is one of Trump's guys. He was in the energy of like one of Trump's main dudes. Like, he's really tied into Trump. He was at his, I believe, both his campaigns and his inauguration. Like, he's like a bestie, I guess. I'll be honest, I had to look him up. Okay, I don't know everybody in politics. I don't follow that much media. Most of the media that I follow would be like regular news. And so I don't know too many of like the key players of certain political parties and stuff like that. I know the most famous ones, right? And I didn't know who he was. So there was an attack, a shot fired, an assassination from a rooftop nearby in the building, hitting Kirk in the neck. And it was one shot only, and he was seriously wounded. And when he was swift away from his security, this video was just circulating the internet. And I did see it. And I remember I posted on TikTok that I did not think he was going to make it. Like, I was very surprised because it was obviously a gunshot wound to the neck, right at the energy, right at the, not even the center, but the side of the neck where, basically when you get hit in the neck with something, the likelihood you're going to hit the carotid or the jugular vein. It's that's why a lot of people, neck injuries are very traumatic. And he died from his injuries. So recently there's been so much controversy on the internet. Social media is just blowing up, both sides, very mad at each other. Some are mad because they say people are celebrating his death. Some are mad because they feel like they shouldn't have to mourn a person that they didn't have any feelings to. And I'll be honest, I feel sad for his daughter and his wife. Anytime somebody dies, you just think that's sad. But I don't really know the dude, and I didn't really know him, but I do know that political violence is definitely on the rise. And it's kind of ironic that he is literally one of the people who is very much like pro-gun. And there's been so many tapes of him just kind of speaking like about how guns are important, and if innocent people have to die, then innocent people have to die so we can keep our Second Amendment right. Now, I will say, I do think that there should be harder gun control laws, definitely. I do, for the most part, believe that people should be able to have their Second Amendment right and should be able to have guns, but I also feel like it shouldn't be for everybody, and we're really seeing that. So there was a suspect arrested today, and he's a 22-year-old, and his name's Tyler Robinson, and he was arrested. Authorities say that allegedly he confessed, and he confessed to his father, and it helped lead him into custody. So I can get into the whole aspect of our words being extremely powerful. And also, when you debate people, you have this energy of where you are literally debating them, right? There's going to be people who don't like you. And if this is the pathway that you have chosen, this is the pathway that you have chosen. You can't ask other people to mourn somebody that they had no feelings for, nor correlation for. Some people feel like he reaped what he sowed, some people feel like he spoke this into existence. Some people feel like he is the one who put this on himself. Now, this website called Jezebel released an article saying that 2 days before this, and I believe they released it 2 days before, I don't know, that he was hexed by a Etsy witch. Now, I don't know much about this media site, Jezebel.com or whatever it's called. But the problem that I have with this is they are basically putting in this fear that, look, witches are hexing politicians. Witches are creating this energy that is violent. Now, not everybody has spiritual beliefs that resemble Christianity, and that is fine. But this country, if you think this country, and if you think this administration won't do another witch hunt in areas of censorship, you are sadly mistaken. There definitely is going to be more censorship, more, I feel like social media is kind of like the next target of the Trump administration because they want to censor what people are talking about. They want to censor and they want to continue to push their agenda. So personally, for me, I feel like this was probably maybe seen as a joke or maybe seen as, yes, an Etsy witch possibly could have hexed him. Oh, ha, 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 ha. But it's very ill-mannered. It's very ill-mannered. Does witches or spiritual people or women of the night, the modern mystics, do they try to hex politicians? Absolutely. Absolutely. Witchcraft and political views and public events have been going on for years. We have to remember that even people who aren't necessarily quote unquote witches do definitely have their own energy of where they could speak certain things into existence, as we see with Charlie Kirk. Did he wish this upon himself? Probably not. But I just feel like, when you live by the gun and you're so proclaimed in violence, that violence seems to find you. The energy that we put into this world is the same energy that we receive. And many of us are affected by what has happened, either on a personal note or on a note that just feels centered around the community or the collective having so much chaos and so much energy. And many of us are like, oh my gosh. But during eclipse seasons, we have tons of energy. This energy is chaotic. This energy is volatile. This energy moves abrupt. And some see it as a cosmic reset. Some see it as a cosmic reflection. Some see it as an area of consequences when those consequences seem to repeat ourselves or repeat it. Now, I remember when I was first talking about Jupiter in Cancer that I said that there was a lot of, false prophecies. There was also a lot of false martyrs. There was also a lot of energy around violence, especially because the last Jupiter in Cancer, we had 9/11. And this is literally occurring as 9/11's memorial just happened yesterday. That we see violence continues to come up, right? And some people are saying like violence is the answer. If we want a revolution, if we want to reform that, violence is the answer. Me personally, I don't condone violence. I don't believe I don't believe that violence is the answer. But unfortunately, a lot of things have not changed without violence, unfortunately. And it just shows how, as a society, and especially here in the US, how this country was founded on violence. And it's very sad. So I definitely think that as a collective, we should be doing reflection, because I will be honest, I have gotten down that little rabbit hole where I'm like, well, maybe he deserved it. Maybe, he spoke this upon himself. Maybe he did all these things that deserved what happened to him. Maybe his mission was this. I don't know. Some people are saying they think it was an inside job, especially now that they find out that this 22-year-old is not a far leftist. We don't believe he's a far leftist. He doesn't look like a far leftist. He doesn't look transgender like everybody's saying, it's probably, a transgender kid who's going crazy. No, he looks like he came up in a family that probably voted for Trump. So we shouldn't be blaming each other on problems our own community and collective are creating. And we are literally just in this area of blame game constantly. Now, I will say that the political and social reactions of the killing have been widely condemned across the political lines. There has been concerns about political violence and threats to free speech and safety in public events. The Utah's government and law enforcement agencies have called it a target political assassination, and federal agents, were involved, and the marshal, for finding the killer. And we can't deny that political violence hasn't been on the rise. So these are some of the things that occurred in 2025. 2025, there was the Capitol Jewish Museum shooting in Washington, D.C., the 2025 Boulder fire attack in Colorado. In 2025, literally the beginning of the year of 2025, there was the New Orleans truck attack that occurred literally at midnight on January 1st. A man drove a pickup truck into a crowd on Bourbon Street in New Orleans during the New Year celebration. And then he got into a huge shootout with the police. There was also threats against historically Black colleges after the Charlie Kirk shooting in 2025, and also just recently, several HBCUs, including Southern University, Alabama State University, received threats that caused lockdowns, canceled classes. Many turned out to be hoax, but still, it's very unsettling. And also there was the attempted assassination in July of 2024 of, Donald Trump. And it's just insane how many assassinations have occurred. Then also, one of the things that I thought was very unsettling was that nobody had this energy for Melissa Hortman, who was a Minnesota state politician who was tragically killed in 2025. And her background work was she was a Democratic, she was for District 34B in Minnesota, House of Representatives. She was elected in 2004. Her education included a BA in political science, philosophy from Boston University. And also she had a background with the University of Minnesota and also from Harvard Kennedy School. Before politics, she worked as an attorney. Her political career was an actual political career. She wasn't somebody who just was a creator. And I'm not, just somebody who debated people. She definitely had a background in politics. And she was known for her work on energy and environment. And her death on June 14th of 2025, her and her husband, Mark Hortman, were shot to death in their home in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. And their deaths have been described by authorities as politically motivated assassinations. Even their dog, Gilbert, who was a golden retriever, also was pronounced dead and had to be later euthanized because of his injuries from this attack. There was one suspect named Vance L. Bolter. He was arrested. Officials said he targeted the couple, and he also targeted multiple individuals and was actually dressed as a police officer. In the wake of her and her husband's death across Minnesota and beyond, they've had tributes and also at the Minnesota Capitol, but we haven't heard anything from the president about this. So it's just very, to me, it just feels like they're trying to make this Charlie Kirk a martyr. They're trying to make him this person who was highly respected and highly founded in politics. Did he debate people? Was he on Trump's, team? Yes. But he did not honestly have any political background. He honestly had no education. And it's just very sad. It's just very sad that they didn't have the same energy for a Democratic woman and her husband who lost their lives due to political violence. And my thing is, if it's not affecting the conservatives, they don't want to speak about it. And it's very sad. And I can see why people are very frustrated. Also, we have to remember that we're literally at 125 school shootings in 2025 already. So of course people want stricter laws against gun violence, and nobody in that administration wants to go there. So definitely the country is 100% divided. The country has been divided for a while. And I do feel that with the recent energy of the eclipses, the shadow, we're seeing that energy. We're seeing the hatred. We're seeing the passion of no solidarity. We're seeing that energy coming right in front of us. And a lot of it has to do with just people have different thinking processes. People morally believe certain things are right and morally believe certain things are wrong. This is literally what some people believe with their heart of hearts. And if I feel like with my heart of heart that this is wrong, but you're telling me that this is right, it's a no-win situation, right? We have to be able to compromise. It's like we are in this big clusterfuck of a relationship that is so toxic. It's just so sad. Also, with geopolitical news, Nepal has changed leadership. So violence and large protests in Kathmandu, Nepal's capital, led to the resignation of their Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli. In response, President Ram Chandra Podal appointed Shushkali Karki, a former Chief of Justice and interim Prime Minister. She is the first woman to lead Nepal. Okay? Like other women are leading the world, and here in the U.S., they do not want to vote in a woman. Absolutely not. Triggering events. Definitely a lot of triggering events occurred for this revolution to happen. And I'm not saying a woman's going to solve all the problems, but I am saying that what has been working in our political standpoint is not working, okay? Like, these two parties are fucking up. The triggering events, protests erupted primarily over banned social media is what people are saying, but it was later lifted. But this grew the energy to encompass the corruption that this nation had, right? That Nepal had, and the dissatisfaction with the government. And a lot of people just rushed to the streets. The unrest turned deadly, and dozens of people and protesters and some security personnel were killed and many were injured. And as we see, violence continues to ring again in energies of revolution. The aftermath and the political consequences with the Prime Minister's resignation and appointment for the interim government, Nepal has entered a period of transition aimed towards restoring order and preparing for possibly new elections. Now, could this happen in the U.S.? I highly doubt it. But it also shows the U.S. that the youth is very disconnected to them, is very disconnected to this two political party. And that the youth, because this Gen Z generation is not like the boomers, is not like the Gen X. They are more abrupt, and they are more centered off of seeing accountability. And the youth does not correlate with these old government structures at all. And what's also interesting about this is we see this energy of Pluto and Aquarius. Now, some other geopolitical news. France and Israel, this two-state solution push. So Germany has announced its support France and led to an initiative calling for two-state solution to the Israel and Palestine conflict. Also, we see that France is having a lot of economic factors since there's been a lot of pulling from African countries because they basically were receiving a lot of I guess you could say almost wealth from sucking certain areas dry. So Saudi Arabia is also expected to back the plan. Germany is preparing to endorse and correspond with the UN resolution. But as of now, we haven't seen any resolution with Israel, and they're continuing to bomb Gaza. So there's definitely a lot of political and world violence that is going on. Also in Russia, Poland, so Russian drone excursions and NATO tension occurred. This is literally just all occurred. Poland has experienced excursions by Russian drones into its airspace. These incidences are viewed by Poland and its allies as potential threats, right? That Russia is provoking them. And it tests for NATO's responsiveness. So they're like basically saying, NATO, what the fuck are you going to do? The Defense Corporation and military production, the two bolster in the defense capacity, especially given with the tensions with Russia. And Poland working with British with the firm BAE system to build up a production of heavy artillery of, more military equipment, and are planning to build multiple factories and facilities. So we definitely see that there's tensions worldwide. I know a lot of people are thinking there's going to be like some type of world war, some type of civil war, some type of war. And when we looked at the cosmic energy of before, it seemed that we had the Uranus and Gemini making a huge structure. We had the energy of Pluto and Aquarius making a huge structure. We had the energy of Jupiter and Cancer making a lot of almost deja vu of certain elements. We are going to take a look at the US's birth chart and the current transits that are occurring on right now. Now, I will tell you, the chart that I pulled up was in fact the day of the shooting of Charlie Kirk. Now, some of you might be asking if I am going to read his birth chart. To me, I don't have any reason to read a dead man's birth chart unless for whatever reason I'm providing some type of homage or some type of inspiration or some type of energy of showcasing who he was. Maybe I'll look at some of his transits, but I'm not going to be like, oh, because of this is why he was unalived. I'm not doing that, and I'm not going there. There's tons of astrologers who have, and I'm sure you can find them. They're everywhere. To me, I am going to look at what's happening at the US at the time of the shooting, because to me, that's more important about what is going on as a collective than his birth chart. So September 10th at 2025, the shooting occurred, believed at 12:23. We see that number 23 ringing out in Utah. So the planets at this time, when we have to remember the birth chart of the United States, is a sun in Cancer, an Aquarius moon, and I believe a Leo rising if we go off of, let's see. So let me just do a quick rundown of the United States birth chart real quick. Sun in Cancer, moon in Aquarius, ascendant in Sagittarius, that's right. Mercury in Cancer, Venus in Cancer, Mars in Gemini, Jupiter in Cancer, Saturn in Libra, Uranus in Gemini, Neptune in Virgo, Pluto in Capricorn, Chiron in Aries, and the North Node in Leo. The ascendant is to believe be a Sagittarius, which I knew it was a fire energy, and that is believed to occur because the birth time is believed to be at 5:10 p.m. of the United States on July 4th, 1776 is when believed that the Constitution was actually signed. So let's get into some of what occurred on September 10th of 2025 at 12:23 p.m. in Utah. So the transits looked like this. We had a transitioning sun in Virgo in the 10th house. This seen as area of public, in some ways, satisfaction, and also unsettlement. The 10th house is seen as that legacy energy. Sun in Virgo is very much centered on root-based energies, and it's transitioning the direction of movement, of life. Also, we had a transitioning moon in Aries in the 5th house. There's a lot of conflict. Was this a Taurus moon or was it a moon in Aries? The time I have is moon in Aries. That these 2 days following this moon in Aries into the 5th house is going to be very dramatic, no fucking shit, and very assertive and aggressive. Now, remember this moon in Aries? I've spoken about a moon in Aries many times. A moon in Aries, I believe Luigi Mangione has a moon in Aries. I know a lot of individuals who have a moon in Aries. I believe Cardi B has a moon in Aries. The moon in Aries is impulsive. The energy of the 5th, the energy of self-expression, creation, making shit happen, being the center of attention, we see that. Also, we see the transitioning Virgo, the transitioning Mercury, just kind of transitioned over as well to the 10th house. So this is energies of public life, focus and consciousness and attention. And then we also see the transitioning Venus in Leo. The transitioning Venus in Leo in the 9th house feels aggressive. You may feel the urge, and I'm sure a lot of us here in the US are feeling the urge to get the fuck out. But then we talk about that. Is getting out the best thing? Is getting out and leaving the country that we were born in the best when we were just colonizing another nation, when we're just moving to another place? We're not addressing our problems. That is such, and I hate to say this, that is such the thing that so many conservatives are against. Oh, all these immigrants are leaving their country and coming to our country and fucking it up. What about all the people who are going to Mexico? What about all the people who are going to other countries and making their life harder by increasing how much it costs to rent an apartment, by increasing the financial economics of that country? So me personally, I've definitely debated this because there is a part of me that wants to move to Mexico. And if you know, my family is in Mexico, my dad's side. But then there's another part of me that's like, my parents made that conscious decision to raise me here. I was born here. I am a U.S. citizen. But should I just get up and leave? Because should I run from the U.S.'s problems? Should I run from my country's problems? Or should I stay here and continue to advocate for what I believe is right? So I don't necessarily think that jumping ship to another country is usually the best thing, but I know people who are planning to do so, and I know people who are and have already done. So, definitely we explore that mentally, right? Sometimes moving away seems so easy. The transitioning Mars in Libra at 22 degrees. Now, a lot of people say that this transitioning Mars in Libra at the time of the event is explosive. Mars in Libra, the energy of justice, the energy of judgment. We see we're judging each other. We're judging the situation. And this transit was the strongest, and it will be the strongest until August 29th, all the way to October 6th, I believe. So this also has a contra parallel to Chiron. Now, Chiron is the wounded warrior. So in some ways, we see how this energy really affected parts of the collective. Part of the collective are devastated that this occurred. They're probably even more devastated that this occurred to somebody that maybe they looked up to, right? I'm sure some people looked up to Charlie Kirk. If that's what you believe, that's what you believe. The energies are definitely going to be emphasized. And we see that there's areas of social progress with this movement. Now, some of you might be saying, that's wild that you would say social progress when somebody lost their life. But can we take a moment to really look at the situation? Somebody was assassinated who was a strong believer that everybody had the right to have a gun. So he lived by the gun, he died by the gun, okay? So we need to really understand that there is no way we can protect ourselves fully when we are so centered on violence. Now, I'm not saying that we are going to heal the world with meditation and root work, but it would be nice if we can start to see other people's views by acknowledging that, yes, we are in scary times, but most majority of people just want to live a simple life. When we start to seek this energy of movement where we are so aggressive and these activities, we just need all the fame, we just need all the public energy, all the public approval to achieve what we feel is right. Most people want acknowledgement that what they're saying is right. And unfortunately, some of us may never get this. Another transit was definitely the Jupiter in Cancer. The Jupiter in Cancer in the 8th house, very similar to when 9/11 occurred. So we have to remember that this transit is almost repeating itself in some aspects. While it's not exactly fully aligned, it's already in the center where the Jupiter in Cancer at 19 degrees feels famous. It feels centered around movement of recognition that our legacy, our areas of softness, our areas of being abrupt with the movement of everything that occurs in the 8th house, with the energy of death, with the energy of significant relationships over the lifetime, with energies of influence, with energies of remorse, with energies of secrets, with energies of studying the metaphysics, is grander. Cancer is ruled by the moon magic of the element of movement. Transitioning Jupiter makes that bigger. Also, the 8th house represents the energies of the occult, the metaphysics, the energy of sensitivity to energy, the energy of speaking certain situations into existence occurs quite stronger with this element. The element of being aware at the same time that you are only as powerful as what it is that you put out there. And then when you receive it again, it highlights the energy of movement that is so big that we cannot contain. because we cannot control it. Remember, we cannot control other people's actions. We can control our actions and we can control our decisions. We can control our movements, but we cannot control actions of other people. And this energy, to me, with it kind of doing a parallel to Uranus, lets me know that it's very impulsive and it's very explosive. It also feels to me that this energy is parallel to the sun, making this movement a representation of who we are as a collective. Impulsive, unrealistic, not root-based, still centered in not acknowledging that certain alchemies and certain mysteries of life will continue to move. You can't explain the universe. You can try, but you can't explain how the cosmos work thoroughly if you don't believe it in some ways. And even acknowledging that there are certain things that we cannot control are the first aspect. And acknowledging that everything is aligned in this life path for whatever reason we don't know, right? But everything that seems to be aligned in this life path is almost seen to be here for a reason. Also, we have the Saturn in Pisces at 29 degrees, which is in retrograde. So we have both Saturn in retrograde and Uranus in retrograde at 1 degree in Gemini. And then that is in the 7th house of partnerships. Our entire approach with our relationships has been fucked. Our interpersonal relationships with each other, our interpersonal relationships with self, our interpersonal relationships with people in our collective, the judging, the movement of, people are so worried about politics and they're so worried about their views being right versus others being wrong, that it's almost like a dissatisfaction of the collective moving past it. It feels like if you don't see it how I see it, we can't be friends. And I totally get that, because there's some times that I feel like, well, if you can't see my point of view, how come I should see yours? So I definitely feel that this transitioning Uranus and Gemini in the 7th house of partnerships and of the US's partnerships is going to be here. And it's going to definitely, the next 7 years, it's going to be very interesting of what is going to happen with us as a collective here in the United States. Also, we have the transitioning Pluto. But before I talk about Pluto, let's talk about Neptune. Neptune, again, in retrograde. And it is at 1 degree. And this transit is very strong all through the energies for going back and forth for quite some while. This is a generational planet, and this lasts up to 14 years. So we see that energy of our illusions in our inner circle kind of waking up in our own areas of identity, and also with our own structure that feels relevant. There's definitely ancient ancestral wounds that keep coming back up. And while some of these wounds might not affect everybody, they definitely affect the descendants of these ancestors. And these ancestors continue to create and move, and they are centered around conflict, and they're also centered around seeing the identity of their descendants and seeing the identity of the people. I mean, this world, like, nobody's perfect, right? And I think that's the moral of this, is nobody's perfect. No race is perfect. No human is perfect. We have evil in every genre. We have evil in every person. There's evil in every race, color, religion, background. It comes at no cost but our own illusions of what we think evil looks like, what we think the opponent or the person who disagrees with us looks like. And we have to acknowledge that our deep rooted, if it's racism, if it's stereotypical mindset, if it's generational curses, that deep rooted ideology or insecurity continues to come back up. And until we acknowledge it, we are never going to be able to heal it or quiet that aspect. The transitioning Pluto in Aquarius, this is in the second house. So the US has this movement that occurs, right? This movement that occurs for 20 years, making this energy feel almost like an attitude, almost like, the framework of our old patterns, the energy of new entities, the energy of new possessions, the energy of new growth, but also seeing the symbolic of there could be massive destruction to the economy. There could also be massive material possessions that continue to be centered around greed. And unfortunately, that is the energy that feeds many politics and feeds many government structures, and also that feeds many collectives. When I look at long-term aspects that occurred, I'm not going to necessarily, some of the short-term aspects were the transitioning sun squares natal Mars, which that natal Mars in Libra, that was strong. And then also the transitioning moon sextiles the natal moon. So we felt that energy, right? The strong sextile with the Aquarius moon. We felt that. With the collective, very disrupt with that Aries impulsive moon. I definitely think that a lot of us need to understand that the long-term aspects, like the transitioning Saturn sextiles and the natal Pluto, feels almost like we have to take personal responsibility, especially when we've been allowing ourselves to stay acknowledged and allowing ourselves to stay centered in these habitual patterns. I'm not saying these patterns are ever going to change. I'm just saying that we have to acknowledge our own movement. Also, the transitioning Chiron in a strong square with the natal Pluto in Aquarius. And Chiron is centered in that energy from the energy of the Leo, of the leadership. So understanding that our leadership as a nation really needs some fucking healing. I don't know how else to fucking put it. It's fucked. It's fucked. And, we can only do better as a society when we choose to compromise somewhat, when we choose to be kind to each other, not say evil things or mean things or degrade people by who they are, who they were born, race, demographics, social economic factors. When we decide to let the hatred go. So, this is eclipse season. This is shadow season. This is chaotic energy. So I wanted to share with you guys, and thank you so much for listening to this podcast, and everybody have an amazing day. Bye.